Welcome to This is What Democracy Sounds Like. I'm Kevin Prang. This program is presented as a presentation of Metropolitan Congregations United. MCU is a community organization that brings together religious congregations, community groups, and individuals to work for a common purpose, to create a better life for all residents in the region. We work at the intersection of race, economy, political power, gender, and the structures of oppression within us individually, within our organization, and within the community. And we are working towards building people's control of government, building community control of the economy, expanding the public sphere, and creating structural racial equity. Today, the guest is Reverend Deetra Wise Baker, who is the organizer from MCU's Break the Pipeline campaign. She has also served as the chaplain to incarcerated youth of St. Louis and convened MCU's Juvenile Justice Task Force. Today, we're going to be talking about changing the narrative surrounding Black youth, and especially as it concerns youth and families that are court involved. And what we're talking about today is basically just a racist stereotype that has been ramped up within our society within the last 30 years or so. And that's what we're going to jump in today, and one that specifically was brought up in the recent mini-series on Netflix called When They See Us, which was a very powerful presentation. And so, Reverend Baker, you kind of start off sometimes with a little bit of a thought process and exercise to start addressing this issue.
Yeah, whenever I'm with groups, I ask people to think about, what are the attributes of children? What are some general attributes that we attribute to children? And, people say things like innocent and special, beloved, cared for, important, to be protected. Those are some of the things that people say. And so then I ask folks to be honest and share what kind of images and words and attributes have been given to Black youth. And when people are honest, they will say things like criminal, not to be trusted, unsafe. These are some of the words that super predator, that Hillary Clinton made popular in the 90s. That those are words that are floating in the narrative space about Black youth, and those kinds of tropes have consequences in our psyche and on the bodies of Black youth.
Okay, and you find that people you talk to are they come to that quickly, or is it something that folks need to be addressed to, or introduced to?
Well, I think people know. Like people, if we're honest, if we can sort of like put say kind of put it on the media, you know what I mean? And the media does have responsibility in creating these narratives. People will be honest and say, yes, this is definitely how Black youth have been depicted. Mm-hmm. And so that leads to things like adultification of Black youth, particularly of Black girls, of expecting them to act older than they are. And those have definite consequences when it comes to interaction with actors in systems that are supposed to be designed to protect them.
And we're really seeing this fight taking place right now in St. Louis this summer, and what are some ways we're seeing that play out this summer?
I mean, we've had a hard summer, right? We've had now 25 kids who've been victims of gun violence, heartbreaking for any parent or family. I'm a mother myself. It's unimaginable. So, that's very painful for families and for the community, right? And so you have that going on. And then you have, sort of this issue of what's going on with Black youth. Who are the perpetrators? I don't know that they even all are Black youth. I would say that's what people generally suspect. I don't know that to be factual, actually. But in the communities that the killings are happening, and so what can we do to make sure that we recognize that everyone that's involved, presuming that these are Black youth, that they're all our children and they're all worthy of care and how do we hold their humanity in the midst of accountability, in the midst of safety, in the midst of care and for families. And so that's what we're talking about. And it's hard to hold all that together with the narratives that have been offered to us thus far. And so we're talking about MCU. We got to change that narrative. We got to problematize that narrative. We got to complicate that narrative so that we can lift up all of our children in spaces of accountability and safety and care.
Okay, you talked about I'm going to get the word wrong. Or making it basically disrupting the narrative. And that's something we talk a lot about in MCU is creating tension. And what types of ways are we looking to disrupt that narrative in our community?
Yeah, I think last time at our meeting is to hear stories of young people who are court involved. Hear their story, hear their family stories, hear, the story of their origin and what they came up in and what was around them and what happened when they had contact with the system. It's not what people think, I think we have these imaginations of, what it's really like and what people go through, but you need to hear it from the mouth of the children. You need to hear it from the mouth of the families. I was talking to Valerie Dent, the president from Mothers in Charge, and she has lost a child to gun violence. And one of the first things she said to me was, it wasn't just her child that she was thinking about, that she was also thinking about most of us have lost our kid. My son to a gun, your son to the system. And so she was very much aware of that there was two losses that were happening, and she was holding both of those losses sacred. And so I think those are the kind of stories that we need to tell, and then we need to interrogate what's going on in the system in response and interaction with some of these narratives.
It seems to me that it's a narrative that is dehumanizing on its face, and it takes away the innocence of Black children, and the ability to make mistakes and to childhood, you're sort of bouncing around as it is, and when the system is putting more constraints on it, it takes away what should be there naturally, and it takes away that humanity.
Yeah, I think that's so good. Black folks, struggle to be able to be human, right? And so, in the sense that, we know we're really human when we can make mistakes and recover, right? So, Black kids can't recover in the system, right? That's what the data shows in the disparity, right? That Black kids can't recover in the same way that white kids can recover in the system. They don't get their lives back the same way that white kids get their lives back for doing exactly the same things, right? That the consequences are longer, they're more collateral, and they're long lasting. And part of it is because in the narratives that have been created in this racist, community that we've all inherited, is that Black folks have to live different. There's a different standard for us, and part of that trap is that we can't make mistakes, right? And that's so problematic for young people whose brains aren't developed and who are who's part of their adolescent development to make mistakes. And folks should know and understand the data, overall juvenile crime is down. Overall, the kinds of things that kids get into, Black kids included, are misdemeanor and minor and are diverted. But the stories that we see, the narratives that we hear, the things that we latch on to are the things that are harder and more problemsome, and we give less room to Black kids when we're in those spaces.
And when you're talking about the child doesn't fully know the system either. As adults, we can talk about it, we can recognize it, but a child, they're behaving, and they don't know that the system is already stacked against them too. So it seems like just every twist and turn is another downward spiral or negative spiral, and that really takes us on the white side of things to really hold consciously that remember, you know, what's going on here, and don't fall into the trap that we've been taught. So,
absolutely, yeah, the trap of, oh, you know, that's what they do. That's who they are. No, like, right. You know, when we look at the data over and over, you know, we can see it, whether it's suspensions or, you know, data on certification. That's when a kid is transferred to the adult system, that there's disparity when you got the same charge, but you have a different color on the kid. And so bias and narrative is a part of what's happening.
And holding those disparities up against each other, I think, is the key too, because sometimes you don't even see it until you see the opposite, that the white kid gets a week punishment, or the black kid gets, you know, months or years punishment, and that disparity seems to really wake people up a lot of times.
And I think what people don't see is the cumulative cost of each one of those steps and entrances into the system, and then, you know, you see, you know, a prison population, and, you know, you make judgments about, oh, well, you know, that's just who these people are. This is just what they do. This is, you know, no. This started at school. This started in the community. Okay, we can go before that. This started with the design of a community that marginalized folks and created, you know, systems that benefited some and not others, and created less opportunities and less options and more punishment and more discipline and more criminalization. Right. And then you begin to see a picture of how we got where we are. You know, different laws for different crimes that impact different people. You know, I was thinking about the opioid crisis now. I'm glad that, you know, people are being treated as human beings, you know, in this opioid crisis, and that people are being seen, you know, worthy of redemption and value, and given a second chance and given treatment instead of criminalization. I wish you would have gave that to my people during the crack epidemic.
Right. And you know, our steps to legalize marijuana is just echoing that too.
Yeah, and you know, we all were criminalized for marijuana, and now y'all are going to get rich off of it.
Right. unless states are taking the steps to reverse the injustice of the imprisonment, it really is just funneling money.
Absolute smack in the face to the community. Yeah.
I'm going to switch it a little bit as we try to move towards what MCU is working on. One of the things that we're going to be asking for is resources in the community. How does this affect how resources are allocated just within our communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think one example is just schools, right? Like, you know, we know that the current school funding formula is not working, like in our state, right? The kids that need the best schools actually have the worst ones, right? Yet they are required to perform at the same level, to have the same level of achievements and success, yet they are given the worst school with the least amount of resources. If we're serious about equity and we're serious about opportunity and access, then we have to change things like the funding formula and give kids, you know, a real fair shake, which we haven't done.
And it seems like if the resources are in place, because I've seen that in very specific schools within the city school district, if the resources are in place, that school takes off.
Absolutely.
And you cannot stop that faculty and that principal and those kids once those resources are in place.
Yes, once we get what we need, you know, proven time and time again. We're not the narrative that has been painted. Yeah, Black students are excellent, can achieve amazing academic success when they have the resources and the wraparounds and the support.
Okay, let's turn to some of the things that MCU, Metropolitan Congregations United, is doing to create a better and more equitable society. Now, we've got coming up on Sunday, November 3rd, our annual public meeting. This year it's going to be at Vashon High School, starting at 3 o'clock. And we're going to be talking about some of these issues and specific steps that can take place. Now, with the deaths of so many children in the city this summer, there's been a lot of calls for the mayor of St. Louis to act and protect the children of the city. Those are getting louder, but there are a lot of different voices and a lot of different ideas. So what are we as MCU asking of the mayor of the city of St. Louis?
Well, one of the things, it's not our ask, it's not originally ours, actually Reverend Starcy Wilson from the Deaconess Foundation wrote an article in the St. Louis American, just really reminding the mayor of her promises to our community around children and youth. And two of those, one was that she would rehire the commissioner for children and youth services, which had been in place in previous administrations, and who had done a decent job, I would say, of engaging the community and building relationships across the community in ways that felt good to the community. So rehiring that person, which would mean, I'm sure, putting money back in the budget to get that person on board. And the second one is to actually establish the commission, which was led by the leader of that was hired. And so to hire the person and then reestablish the Children and Youth Commission, to get those relationships, that conversation and contact back in place between the city of St. Louis and its family, children, and youth.
Okay, and it seems to me that we're really going to have to do some listening to the community instead of just saying we already know what the answer is, and we're going to go this route or that route. We're really going to have to engage the citizens and get some feedback for what they see happening in their neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, I think the community has been very clear, like decriminalize, close the workhouse, reinvest resources into, look at the human services budget for St. Louis City, invest resources at the beginning, fix the schools. Like, I think the community is very clear. I don't think we're being listened to. And so we need our leadership to listen and to act on what we're telling them needs to happen. And so the community hasn't been wrong yet in its suggestions. So we're telling you what you need to do. We don't want more police. We don't want the highway patrol. That's not what we need. Right. We need those resources to go into mental health services, into wraparound services, into stronger schools, into divestment of criminal facilities for folks that have done low-level stuff. That's take that bank of money and let's do something else with it.
Okay, good. Now, one of the other things that we are going to be talking about at this public meeting is raising the age. Now, that's something that passed the legislation last year. What is that, and when does that take effect?
Yeah, raising age is really simple. In the state of Missouri, most folks may not know, if you're 17 years old, for the purposes of Missouri statute, you are an adult for criminal purposes. So if you're 17 and you do something as small as a fight at school, you will not even be taken to the juvenile detention center. You will be taken straight to adult jail because for criminal purposes, you are considered an adult in the state of Missouri until 2021. And 2021 is when raise the age goes into effect. However, at this point, not as much been done across the state to prepare for that implementation. And so MCU, along with some coalition partners in the state, are calling for the beginning of the implementation work to start, because we got to do something now. That's why we're calling it raise the age now. We got to do some stuff now to get ready for start in 2021.
And yesterday you were talking about how it's on the books, but nobody has done any planning yet for it.
There's no working groups. There's no implementation. There was a bill that didn't pass that actually specified MCU actually as one of the people that need to be on the implementation committee, including parents and youth who have been impacted by this legislation. And so, yeah, nothing's been done. And so we're going to be calling local officials, our prosecutors in St. Louis City and St. Louis County, our court officials, to make some commitments about starting some implementation steps and coming in together in a working group to make sure we get this done on time, that we have on time start in 2021.
Okay, and beyond just that organization, prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell and circuit attorney Kim Gardner can make some conscious decisions now. Is that correct in how they handle cases?
I think that's part of the conversation. There's a couple things we need to think about. Education of 17-year-olds that are in the jails right now. We're not all clear with every kid how that's happening. And so we want to make sure that 17-year-olds are getting educational services that are not just GED. If a kid doesn't want to get a GED, that they are by law, by statute, given their educational services. So we need to talk about that and get a path around that. And the other thing is, all the stuff that we're talking about, like getting kids out of the adult buildings has to happen in about a year and some change. So we're seeing what parts of that can we do now? What parts of that can we do now? So diverting new 17-year-olds that are going to come in 2020, what can we do to go ahead and divert misdemeanor offenses, low-level offenses now to juvenile court? We think that's in the jurisdiction of the prosecutors.
So the prosecutors then make the decision that we're going to implement this ourselves before the law takes place.
Before the law takes place, you got a year and a half. Let's get some stuff in, and we believe that Wesley Bell and Kim Gardner, they've been very vocal about decriminalization and this focus on youth. So we think they get it, and that they'll be with us on this.
Okay, great. So the last thing that we're going to be talking about at the public meeting is unlocking the vote. This is a little bit longer goal, and we're talking about bringing it up to the legislature in the coming year. Now, Florida made headlines by finally restoring voting rights for former felons. They've had some bumps on the way to implementing that.
Yeah.
So where are we at in the state of Missouri, and what is our current status?
Yeah, so the legislation is simple: to restore voting rights to 60,000 citizens who are on probation and parole in Missouri. If you do have a felony conviction, you can vote, but you cannot vote while you're on probation and parole. And so, we've got to get the word out there that if you do have a felony conviction, you can vote. That's still kind of a myth that's out there. And I think even this will help clear that up. But what we're after is to restore voting rights to those 60,000 folks who are on probation and parole, paying taxes, but can't vote. Right. So we're here to, return people's ownership of democracy. And so it's important to restore those voting rights.
And that probation and parole sometimes, and this is one of the things happening in Florida, is that restitution sometimes is part of that. And that becomes part of that cycle of not being able to have income, not being able to pay off the debts, and then you're still disenfranchised.
Yeah, I saw what they're trying to do. Make sure you have to complete your restitution before folks can, get the right to vote. So it's just a way to hold it up, I think. Right.
Is that paying back, is that sometimes part of parole here in Missouri?
Well, I know for sure that some folks do have to pay for probation while they're on it. There's a fee that you pay. And if you get behind on that, that delays you getting off of probation. And you can't be released until those fees are paid. So,
it becomes that cycle.
It becomes a problem. So we want to be real clear about that.
Okay, so once again, our public meeting for Metropolitan Congregations United will be November 3rd, 3 p.m. at Vashon High School. On public meetings, MCU's been doing that for a while. What are goals of public meetings? What are we looking for?
We're there to pack the room. We're there to show community power. This is the community's opportunity to demonstrate its power. And so, even if you're not, part of MCU officially, feel welcome. This is your time to show up and to show public officials that we do know how to unite and come together as community around issues that matter to the community and to our values.
So the entire listening public is welcome to come.
Everyone's welcome to come. Show up. Let's show out. Let's unlock the vote. Let's raise the age now, and let's get the mayor to install a children and youth commissioner.
Excellent, excellent. So how do we find out more, and do we need to register beforehand?
Yeah, I'd say just check us out on Metropolitan Congregations United on Facebook. That's the best place to find the event links and to register for the public meeting, so that we know that you're coming and that we are ready to accommodate you.
There's a whole infrastructure that we put behind this.
Yes, a lot.
Parking and accessibility and all of those things. So yeah. And I think we're going to have an Eventbrite page also. And so we just click on there and you're ready to go.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd say go on Facebook and you'll see the event, and then you'll see the link to register and all that good stuff.
Okay, great. We're just about wrapping things up. Any other thing you want to mention on this topic before we head on out?
Yeah, I'd just say that the last little part of Unlock the Vote will be on juvenile expungement. And so MCU's ultimate goal really is to build the power of youth and adults who've been infected, impacted by incarceration and detention and juvenile, and to build their power. So you'll see and hear from people and young people who've been formerly incarcerated or had contact with the system in the middle of Unlock the Vote.
Okay. Great, and I think that those personal stories that we've been hearing recently have really powerful and really put everything into perspective. And I think that's what when they say his miniseries did too. It created whole characters and whole stories that really drove things home.
Yeah, let's make our community whole. Let's make sure that we see Black youth as whole. We want you guys to hashtag us at CSSTL. Share stories about Black youth in our community. There's so many of them out there.
All right, great. I want to thank our guest today, Reverend Deetra Wise Baker. Make sure to join us at the public meeting at Vashon High School on November 3rd. To find out more, go to Metropolitan Congregations United website at mcustlewis.org. Also be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for news and events. And if you want to participate with us, first of all, come on out to the public meeting on November 3rd, but also we have mass meetings every third Tuesday of the month. You can find out details on our website and on our social media outlets. I'm Kevin Prang, and you have been listening to This Is What Democracy Sounds Like. Tune in again next time, and thank you for listening.